welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Yochanan, aka Swan, and this is Back to the Basics with Swan. So, remember when? Tell me if you remember when. I'm live. If you want to come in, then I can, bring you in on the conversation. It's not going to be long, I'm going to be brief. But do you remember before modern technology, children used to go outside and play? I know when I was growing up as a little girl, all the way up into my teenage years, I went outside. Children don't do that anymore. We used to play hopscotch. We used to play kickball. We used to play volleyball. And when we were active, even in the wintertime, children don't go outside in the wintertime anymore. They're too busy on their games. And the games, parents nowadays, the games have resulted into being a babysitter for the children, because as long as the kids are on the video games or on YouTube, what have you, I like YouTube, but kids nowadays, I think there should be a limited time on YouTube and they should be monitored. Of course, YouTube doesn't allow children to be on without parental guidance. I do know that, but sometimes they can be on too long, and it takes away. It's dumbing our children down. These video games, modern technology is dumbing our children down, not just our children, us as well. Because since social media, adults like myself tend to go on social media just to skim through the stories, the channels, what's popular, to keep up with the times, keep up to date with what's going on in the entertainment industry. And it's taking the focus off of what's really going on. It's taking the focus off of our lives. Our lives as we know it has changed since modern technology. Now, modern technology ranges from the radio to the television. That was fine. Radio and TV, there's nothing wrong with that. But then it was the video games. The first video game I can remember was with on TV. It was an old school, an old cable network on TV, and the video game was TV tennis. Then from TV tennis, it went to Pac-Man. Those games were good and they were fine. But do you remember back in the 70s and 80s? I can remember as far back as the 70s and the 80s. I can remember back further than that. You don't need to know my age. You probably guessed, okay, well, yes, I'm a baby boomer. So I can remember when we played board games, the families were closer. And we need to go back to the basics, because we played Monopoly as children. Me and my siblings, we played Monopoly. We played Uno. We played cards. We played checkers. Little boys played marbles with marbles. We played jacks. We played with the bolo bat. We played stuff like that. We played ping pong. There were ping pong tournaments. Foosball tournaments at the local community centers. If you couldn't afford it at your home, you could go to the local community centers. But then there was the video arcades that you could go to, and you could see every video game from Pac-Man to other ones, Donkey Kong. And that was no problem, but kids were getting out and they were communicating with each other. There was no violence like it is now. Children are gang banging. They get on social media. They're bullying each other on social media, bullying each other in schools, fighting. And as soon as a fight breaks out, children pull out their cameras. Not just children, adults too. people, we have got to go back to the basics at some time or another. Families were closer together. We weren't allowed to take food in our rooms. We had to eat together at the dinner table. And if we weren't having dinner or lunch together, if we had a snack, we couldn't take our snack in the living room area, or the den, or our bedrooms. We had to eat that snack at the table. There was no taking food outside. Now everybody is in such a hurry. No one wants to cook. The quick thing to do is go to a fast food restaurant. And so we were much healthier then. We're not healthy now. Most of us are obese. Children are obese now. Children aren't active anymore. They're not, we're not using our brains. We're not using our minds. So instead, I challenge you today. Instead of allowing your child to be on a video game, or the popular video games, they're okay. I looked at them, Minecraft and Roblox. There was one, Grand Theft Auto. I don't like that game. I'm just naming games, and I don't have rights to any of these games. But anyway, I'm naming these games that are popular with the children. Everyone wants to be a YouTuber. At 10 years old, you want to be a YouTuber. Of course, there are successful YouTubers at 10 years old. But we need to go back to the basics. Take your children to the library. Pick up a book. Get a book out for them. Help them choose a book, because we have to know what's the content that's inside these books nowadays, because you don't know what some of these authors are doing. And parental guidance was very adamant back in the day. It was very prevalent back in the day. We were engaged in our children's lives. We were concerned with their academic achievements. And now it's just like the video games and TV and what have you has taken over. It has been a substitute parent for us. So when we're not teaching our children and ourselves, so what do you think is going to happen? We're in actually an artificial environment. It's not reality. And the reality is, if you're faced in a situation where you have to protect yourself, are you going to protect yourself? No, because you've been so programmed to the game, you don't realize reality from artificial. So get a book for your child. Read to your child. Teach your children. There was a program, and I thought this was a good program that taught children how to read and taught children how to learn. And I forget the name of the program, but it was, children used to watch Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton. Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton. Television shows like Zoom was on, The Electric Company, Schoolhouse Rock. These programs taught children how to learn. Sesame Street is always a great one. Taught children how to learn. And that's what we need to get back to. Get back, I challenge you, pull out a board game. Challenge your mentality as well as your children's mentality. Connect 4 is a good strategic game. Connect 4, Operation, Sorry, Trouble. Those were games that we played. And like I said, we had jump ropes. We were active. Little boys climbed trees. Little boys collected insects and learned what the insects were. Now, little boys are afraid of insects. Some of them are. So while children are young, we need to instill values in them and start teaching them, because their brains are like computers. They're constantly seeking knowledge. So we want to give them the right information. When I say go back to the basics, eat at the dinner table. There's nothing wrong with takeout. But fix a quick meal, a basic quick meal. Macaroni and cheese with little smoky hot dogs. mixed in with the macaroni and cheese. Or ham chunks, if you eat pork, ham chunks mixed with macaroni and cheese. Beanie weenies, those are delicious snacks for lunch. Grilled cheese and tomato soup was always a great combination. So let's go back to the basics. It starts with us. Children mimic what their parents do. Most children nowadays, we need to go back to teaching our children the Bible. Teach them about Christ. A lot of children don't know Christ. A lot of our youth are dying at a young age. 15. You used to look at the obituary and just see older people in the obituary. Now you're seeing younger people in the obituary. Even if you have an obituary, no one's reading the newspaper anymore. Everything has gone to modern technology. Everyone wants a quick fix. We want to see an obituary, we go online and click, obituaries, or click the person's name, obituary, online. And there it is right at our hands. I challenge you all to start doing things. Let's stop taking the easy way out. Let us start with ourselves. Pick up a book and read the book. When we read, it actually broadens our brain cells. They start rejuvenating. Our intellect starts increasing. Watching TV, I found myself being glued to the TV, watching the series. It used to be when Dallas came out or the Waltons came out. We would watch the episode. It would last for about an hour. We couldn't wait till the next week that it came on to see the second episode. Now you can binge watch on different channels, on Tubi, on Pluto, on Netflix. Those are good. They have good content and good movies and action-packed movies. But series is now, you can find yourself, I used to find myself watching The Walking Dead for hours and hours and hours, from 5 o'clock in the evening till 5 o'clock the next morning. And I had to check myself. Hey, you don't spend that much time with God. You don't spend that much time reading a book. We go to church, we're bored. You don't have to go to church to believe in God. The Bible says we are the temple. Our bodies are the temple of Christ. He is in us. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. So I challenge you today, go back to the basics. Start teaching your children about the Bible, about Christ, about our Creator. Start teaching your children values and morals, to have morals. Teach them skills that will help them, in case of a crisis. If we have a crisis, there were blackouts back in the day. Would you know what to do if there was a blackout? Would your children know what to do if there was a blackout? No, we have to have critical thinking. So we need to teach them. We need to teach ourselves. I remember before the cell phones, we used to remember people's telephone numbers. Now, since the cell phone, I can probably only remember 2 people's telephone numbers. I don't even remember my mother's telephone number. I have to pull her name up and call her. But before the cell phone, we could remember people's telephone numbers. Before the cell phone, we would go and visit with people. Now, visiting people is reduced to FaceTiming or Google Chat. What happened to going to see about someone, seeing how they're doing. And we need this. We are getting out of touch with ourselves. We are allowing technology to take away the natural person we are. And naturally and humanitarian, as a human, we are supposed to touch. We have senses: touch, taste, feel, smell, see, hear. We take these things for granted now. I am blessed and happy to have all of my senses, my eyesight. You see the flowers bloom. We don't go out and smell the flowers. We don't go out and smell nature or interact with nature. It's soothing to go to a river and watch the falls and just sit there and watch the water. We need to teach our children how to camp, how to hike. We need to teach our children instead of leaving it up to the internet or to television or to, content to teach our children. We need to teach them. Does your child know what to do in case of a fire or in case of a storm? Sure, the schools teach them, but we need to teach them too. It starts with the parent. Does your child know how to, would they know how to be self sufficient and taking care of themselves if you had to go to work and you had to be at work? God forbid you're leaving your children home who are underage. But I taught my children at a young age to know how to make instant oatmeal, know how to make noodles. Of course, that's not back to the basics, but it is a mechanism, an easy mechanism of how to fix them something to eat. Peanut butter and jelly. Teach them how to make peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Teach them how to use a can opener. The microwave is what it is. Teach them how to prepare a meal, not just a quick meal. I don't encourage you to teach children how to use the stove and the oven at such a young age. No, but they do need to know the difference between hot, getting burned, and cold. They do need to learn that. And we learn that by trial and error sometimes. But I'm just challenging you. I'm here today to speak up on going back to the basics. And so, yes, I'm wearing I'm wearing a wig. It's beautiful. But back in the day, they had wigs back in the day. But we were, really good with keeping up with trendy hairstyles, afros, braids with afros, finger waves, natural hairstyles. Yes, it's high maintenance, but it's healthier. It promotes a healthier scalp, healthier hair. We didn't wear all these long fake eyelashes. Yes, they look beautiful sometimes, but sometimes, like now, all I have on is lip gloss. Lip gloss, that's it. No eyeliner. I never wore foundation. Less is always best to me. So I just encourage you, I want to stress it. Let's get back to the basics. And if you have any basic ideas or methods or things that we used to do back in the day, I encourage you, come in, tune in to my channel. This is Yochanan, aka Swan, and you have just been on Back to the Basics with Swan.